Self-doubt travels alongside art and creation like telephone poles with railroad tracks. An artist may focus on their work long enough to see only the track ahead of them for a time, but in short order they will look to their side or behind them or even ahead of them, and they will see there the self-doubt that they had forgotten. It is there, always nearby, always hugging the periphery of our artistic aspirations. To those of you who photograph with the aim of being an artist, that self-doubt is a companion for your journey. And if it ever goes away, then you know your journey is done and you're no longer an artist. Our efforts into our work as artists must always drive us, advance our creative vision, and include self-doubt always near us, close enough to almost touch. When I wrote my novel, I struggled with that self-doubt. I failed twice at novels before, failing to find a voice, a character, and a story that had within them something important to say about the human condition. In my finished novel, Jackalope Hunting, Merrick, the main character's camera literally saves his life. For me, the scene where Merrick, in the churning, frothy, latte-like water of a river swelled from a dam breach, breaks the window of his sinking car and uses the buoyancy of his camera case to float and arrive at shore. That scene is as much a real event in Merrick's life as it is a metaphor for how art can, and I argue should, affect the lives of those artists who create it. Art, or creating writ large, must be something we always worry we will fail at. It must be a lifeline during monotonous and repeated months in the same job. Art, for those of us called to create it in a way that makes us doubt if our work will ever be worthy, must be an ever-present loud hum in the backs of our minds that works to tear us away from our spreadsheets and per my last email replies. And we must advance our art. That is part of being called to it. New subjects, new media, new formats. The gear doesn't matter. The message does. So long as your gear facilitates your ability to give voice to an important aspect of the human condition, it does what it needs to do. Experimenting with new subjects, media, and formats is important to our ability as artists to develop, refine, and work to achieve an unachievable perfection in the voice we seek with our work. That need drew me to 4x5. That need drew me to a 4x5 camera I could carry on my back. That need drew me to an anniversary graphic. When I start one of my camera reviews which I have taken the explicit and intentional approach of creating as personal essays that loosely tie into my time with the camera they ostensibly discuss, I worry that the images will not stand up, that the words will lack the concepts and feelings I try to imbue within them. The self-doubt of these reviews stands behind my chair, exhales warm and wet onto my neck hairs, its breath condensing and dripping down my spine. That self-doubt follows each of these pieces from the first paragraph's first indent, through editing and recording, past upload, and for months or sometimes years after the essay review goes live. Using the anniversary graphic one day, carrying it on my back up to the top of an 8,000-foot hill, I found myself asking why I did that. What need had I fulfilled other than to prove that I could? Maybe it was a moment of clarity. Maybe my dehydrated brain misfired. I realized that I constantly seek new gear or challenges to avoid the slow pace of refining and improving my voice and creative vision. I wondered if gear acquisition is actually just a way to distract ourselves from creative self-doubt, to use the excuse of learning new equipment as a way of avoiding the significant question of whether we are good enough to improve our work, find a voice, and find a way to say something worth hearing. My anniversary graphic arrived a project camera. I opened it for the first time and the bellows snapped in half like an overstretched rubber band, filling my face and lungs with a cloud of old camera dust. The back did not hold film. The front standard had cracked. The shutter did not fire correctly. The camera was in unarguably worse condition than the seller had stated. I almost returned it. Instead, I fixed it. When I fixed my anniversary graphic to a point that allowed it to work, I asked myself what I could do with the 4x5 aspect ratio and the lens characteristics that I can't do with 35mm or medium format. I wondered if I could carry a 4x5 camera up a mountain. Could I take a waterfall photo on slide film without a light meter? Could I expose on paper and develop it in a daylight tank and have the result be properly exposed? And, most vexing, could I create photos that carry in them a story or a message about the subject and that do so in a way that says something meaningful? And on this last subject, and specifically as it relates to my photography, the ever-present companion of self-doubt stalks the peripheries of my vision like a sleep paralysis hallucination, a walking daytime nightmare that demands attention. I realized when I asked that last question that my constant experimentation was, in fact, a distraction from my ability to advance my artwork. That changed my relationship with camera gear and caused me to identify what I need and what I value in photographic equipment. The Graflex Speed Graphics and all their iterations were created to be utilitarian to fill a need. The anniversary graphic lacks most of the functions of field, monorail, and even technical press cameras, trading them instead for a focal plane shutter. The anniversary graphic was made to be used by the press to take snapshots and record events on film that would be rapidly developed that day to be on front pages that night. These were purpose-made cameras not meant to be elevated far beyond that purpose. To use them otherwise is to elevate the basic to try to make it sublime. Many people have tried and succeeded in just that with these cameras. Humans, when we examine what we are simply purpose-made beings designed to create more humans. To elevate ourselves by making cities, civilizations, spaceships, and yes, even art, elevates the basic to try and make it sublime. Maybe that is why photographers are continually drawn to the Speed Graphics series. We see in these basic cameras designed for a specific purpose much of ourselves, both what we are and what we hope to be. No remedy exists for the self-doubt of a creator. That self-doubt, despite the way it harasses us as artists, must become a partner for our work, must become a catalyst to look at our work today and see how we have improved from the past and what we can do to improve in the future. Self-doubt will never have the calming sound of telephone poles passing your train car. Self-doubt will always, and only, breathe breath like rotting vegetables on your shoulders. Whatever art you choose for yourself, embrace the fear that you will not be good enough and use it to propel your work forward. Experiment with new means to tell the stories of your subjects. Forget the latest technology and try something old, something creaky, something that doesn't quite work perfectly. See how a new format, different camera, new paintbrush, or new favorite musician can affect and help make mature what you create. Embrace what you learn from each new endeavor and use it to inform and educate your creative vision. There is a trap there, however. As you experiment and seek new challenges in media, never become distracted by always changing equipment and approaches, and never confuse trying new gear with maturing as an artist. Trying new ways to create art is a vital part of learning to communicate through art. But it can cause us to lose sight of the overarching goal that art must have: to give voice to an aspect of human experience in a way that shows the universal humanity in all people, to exhibit the beauty in the world around us, or to tell a story worthy of being heard. Newspaper microfilm archives are filled with tens of thousands or more examples of photos taken on Graflex Speed Graphics that do just that. So maybe, yes, we do and are right to see something of ourselves in these cameras after all.